Tuesday night edition of the Aaron Torres Sports Podcast. I am your host, Aaron Torres. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody is having a great evening. We are, about 5 days away from the Final Four? And I know what you think. You're thinking, Torres, we're just talking all Final Four today, right? Think again, there is a lot going on that we have to get to before we start previewing the games. I think the schedule for this week, here is the bottom line. Tonight, we're actually talking a little college basketball coaching carousel. You saw the news. Eric Musselman, head coach at Arkansas, is interviewing at USC. I think I have a pretty good feel for what is going on there, what could happen next, what is the time frame, and frankly, who could be the next head coach at Arkansas if, in fact, Muss does leave and if he is hired by USC. So we'll discuss all that. From there, did you see the ratings for the NCAA Tournament Elite Eight game, Duke, North Carolina State? I'm here to tell you this. Everything everybody tries to tell you about college basketball is a complete lie. I explained that. Also, may have got myself in a little bit of a S-storm today on Twitter, as I tend to do, this one having nothing to do with Purdue fans. So we'll discuss that. And finally, we will wrap the show. I do think, bluntly, that there is a very interesting interview to wrap the show that you are going to enjoy. So a buddy of mine, his name is Vinny Bruno. I actually know him from UConn, but he is an executive VP at a company called FastModel's Sports. They are the brains behind the transfer portal operation. So you wonder, transfer portal opens, how does my coach know who to contact, when to contact, what time to contact, all that good stuff? They handle all of it, and he is going to take you behind the scenes in terms of how it all works, how your coach is evaluating, finding players, all that good stuff. It is fascinating. We'll talk a little bit about the state of college hoops as well, the portal, NIL, where we're going. Vinny Bruno from FastModel's Sports will be joining me to wrap the show. But a lot of Eric Musselman, a lot of USC, a lot of Arkansas before we get there. Should mention before we get started, a couple quick things. First of all, we want to thank our presenting sponsor, BetUS Sportsbook. BetUS has been with us all March long, and we are so grateful for everything that BetUS has done for us, okay? And you want to thank me. You say, Torres, you put out hours of content every week. How can I possibly thank you? Well, there's one very simple solution. Go ahead, click that little link in the show description. Let me tell you why. It is because BetUS has the best offer going in all of sports betting right now. Here is the offer. They are going to match 125% on your first 3 deposits. That's literally unprecedented. So you put in $100, you lose it all. They give you 125 before you lose it, okay? Let's say you put in 100, you lose 100. They give you 125, you lose all of it. You can put in another 100. They will give you 125 as well. And if you lose all that, whatever, guess what? A third deposit, they will match $125. Again, click the link in the show description. We really do appreciate their support. Thank you to BetUS. Thank you to BetUS Sportsbook. Should mention as well, you know who else I have to thank? BracketFanatics.com. 4th straight year, we are working with Bracket Fanatics as the official sponsor of the Aaron Torres Pod Bracket Challenge. We're giving away $1,000 in cash prizes. But I got something cool to tell you about our buddies at Bracket Fanatics. Is your bracket busted? Are you sitting there saying, Torres, what do I even care? My bracket's busted, whatever. Well, Bracket Fanatics is actually giving away on top of the $1,000 cash prizes that we're giving away. They are giving away $250 straight cash. You know, Randy Moss straight cash, homie, to one listener of the Aaron Torres Pod who entered the Aaron Torres Pod Bracket Challenge. So if you enter the Aaron Torres Pod Bracket Challenge, pay very close attention here in the coming minutes, because here is how you can take advantage of your opportunity to win $250. All you got to do, in Bracket Fanatics, there is a tab called Manage Bets, okay? And part of the cool part about Bracket Fanatics is you can bet your friends inside the app, right? So you're on bracketfanatics.com and say you think Purdue is going to beat NC State. Your buddy thinks NC State is going to beat Purdue. He lives across the country. You go to bracketfanatics.com. There is an opportunity to make a bet. You go to Manage Bets tab, and then you click on the New Bet tab. There is a chance to make a bet with anybody in the pool. But here is also what has happened, okay? We have a bet out to everybody who entered the Aaron Torres Pod Bracket Challenge. That bet, I took Purdue minus 9.5, Saturday night against NC State, and I put out a bet to all of you in the Aaron Torres Pod Bracket Challenge. All you have to do is accept the bet. Bracket Fanatics has given out $25 in free money. They call it Bracket Bucks for you to bet against me. If you win, you get 25 Bracket Bucks, and then we'll do another bet before the national championship game. Whoever ends up with the most Bracket Bucks at the end of the NCAA tournament gets $250 in cash, straight cash from Bracket Fanatics. So all you got to do, log in bracketfanatics.com, manage bets, and once there, you'll see I have put out a bet. I'm taking Purdue. If you want NC State, accept the bet. Free money. You don't have to pay anything. Go ahead, accept that bet, and whoever ends up with the most Bracket Bucks at the end of the tournament gets $250 in cash prizes. With that said, let me say this. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get to the topic of the day. And the topic of the day, let me just say this, okay? So obviously, it is Final Four week. NCAA tournament is coming to a close, and I know a lot of you probably tuned in wondering, Torres, are you previewing Purdue, NC State, UConn, Alabama? We're going to do that later in the week. I'm actually traveling to Phoenix tomorrow night. We will see if we do a live show depending on what the news cycle is. But to me, there is a story that is so big right now that I believe that we have to discuss it, and we'll preview the Final Four later in the week. That story, what the heck is going on at USC? What the heck is going on with Eric Musselman? And is Eric Musselman, the Arkansas head coach, who has taken them to multiple second weekends? We know the stat. 3 Sweet 16s, 2 Elite 8s, was a game away from the Final Four in both 2021 and 2022. Is he going to accept the USC job? I saw somebody from On3 officially reported that he will interview for the USC job on Wednesday, and the question becomes, will he accept it? What I want to do, I'm just going to take a few minutes to give you a little bit of background, but I'm here to tell you everything that I know up to this moment, okay? So essentially, what I know right now about Eric Musselman and about the situation at USC. Let's give a little background, just some context, whatever. So about a week ago, Andy Enfield, the former head coach at USC, the first report comes out that he is the front runner for the SMU job, okay? There was actually a report earlier that Eric Musselman may have been interested in it, but what I can tell you is that once Andy Enfield's name surfaced, I can't tell you who was the front runner the day that Rob Lanier was hired. I can't tell you that. What I can tell you, though, is that from the day that Andy Enfield's name surfaced, he was the only guy that was going to get that job at SMU. They wanted him. He wanted them. The issue was that at USC, he had a pretty substantial buyout, and that the buyout dropped on April 1st. And so since last Wednesday or Thursday, USC has known they are losing Andy Enfield. Andy Enfield has known he's going to SMU, and SMU has known they are getting Andy Enfield. They tried to negotiate a drop in the buyout. USC wouldn't budge, and SMU just said, screw it. Okay, you want to play games? We're going to wait till April 1st. That is why Andy Enfield was officially hired on Monday. So I bring it up because that is the Andy Enfield part of it, the SMU part of it. The thing was, though, the second that the USC job was even rumored to be open, Eric Musselman was deemed a favorite to potentially land the job and a favorite to potentially get it. And for people who are wondering, why the heck would Eric Musselman want that job? He's got a great job at Arkansas. Well, I'm here to tell you a couple things. One, he's obviously got deep West Coast ties. Head coach, Golden State Warriors, head coach, Sacramento Kings, a lot of family on the West Coast. His mom, I believe, still lives in San Diego. He coached at Nevada. His wife, I believe, is from the West Coast. And so Arkansas fans will tell you, they knew from the beginning that if USC or UCLA opened this offseason, that there was the possibility that Eric Musselman would be interested and Eric Musselman would pursue the job. And so I bring it up because that takes us up to today. That takes us up to the report from Tuesday afternoon that Eric Musselman will interview for the job on Tuesday. What I'm here to tell you, I don't have any facts that Eric Musselman is the leader or that Eric Musselman will be offered the job or that Eric Musselman will even take the job if offered. But what I do believe, what I do feel confident in saying is this. I don't think that report gets out unless USC is confident that he is a guy that they want and he is a guy that will accept the job if offered. Now, listen, once you get into negotiations, anything can happen. Money might not be right. This might not be right. Whatever. NIL certainly in this era might not be right. I can tell you for a fact, USC's NIL was at least not in a good place in the Andy Enfield regime. I think that's part of why he left for SMU, because SMU, they know, they ain't afraid to spend money, okay? But I bring it up because there's always a chance that some negotiations could go wrong. Some negotiations can go sideways. But I am here to tell you, I truly believe in my heart of hearts that this is more than just a cursory interview. And let me explain why. So I've been doing this for a long time. And why I believe this is beyond just a loose interview, let me explain. It is because, as I said, Andy Enfield's name was first linked to the to this SMU job last Wednesday or Thursday. Again, behind the scenes, there was a battle about his buyout, but I bring it up because when you see that Eric Musselman is interviewing, okay, Jen Cohen, the AD at USC, did not start this search on Monday, okay? That's where I think a lot of people would get confused. She's known since last Wednesday that Andy Enfield was not going to be back and that she had to hire a men's basketball coach. And so to me, when this story comes out on Tuesday, it means that she spent the weekend vetting, talking to people, and that she is bringing Eric Musselman in what she believes will be an interview that I would assume is going to close the deal to make him the next USC head basketball coach. The bottom line, I do not think that she is just starting the process of, who could be interested? I know for a fact she spent the weekend talking to people. Who should I be looking at? Who should I be talking to? Who's legitimate? Who's not? Now, the only thing that has definitively come out of USC is the fact that they are looking for a sitting head coach. I saw the names, Mark Pope and Nico Medved from Colorado State. I think they'd all be good. But I don't think the story about having an interview leaks unless they are pretty far along in the process. It's also worth noting, if you want to start putting together puzzle pieces, the behavior of Arkansas AD Hunter Yurachek seems to indicate to me that he's either over Eric Musselman or he is preparing for not having Eric Musselman. Have you followed this story with Hunter Yurachek, the AD at Arkansas? So Hunter Yurachek, the day that Andy Enfield is first linked to SMU, meaning the USC job is going to open, Hunter Yurachek does this strange thing where he puts out a video the day after, early in the morning, first thing in the morning, probably about 9 a.m. Central Time, like right when everybody's getting into the office in Arkansas. And it is Hunter Yurachek and Eric Musselman, the head coach, on a bus, the Must bus, obviously. And Hunter Yurachek says, "What are you still doing here?" And it was kind of a cool play, we thought he was leaving. We heard he's interviewed, blah, 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 but he's coming back. And I shared the video because it was shared from Hunter Yurachek's official account, shared by the Arkansas Razorbacks account. And so to me, I was led to believe, well, they must be getting along well, but let's take it a step further. There is probably a deal in place for him to get an extension because obviously that's part of probably what Eric Musselman was looking for. When the AD puts out a video, you assume there's a reason for it. Yet within a few hours, it was clear multiple Arkansas outlets are reporting that video is old and nobody can quite figure out why this video was put out in the first place. What AD puts out a video with their basketball coach saying, "What are you still doing here?" And then we find out after that the basketball coach didn't know. that this was not shot in the last day, that this is old video that has been repurposed. And then if there was any doubt, guess what? Hunter Yurachek, the AD, did an interview on Monday confirming all that, saying, yeah, we really want Eric Musselman here. We love him. And yeah, I'll admit, I doctored that video. It was old video, and I don't know the exact quote. But basically, there were 3 kind of bullet points from that interview that I took. Doctored the video. There's no extension in place. And Hunter Yurachek basically said, look, we want him as our head coach. But obviously, at this point, it's kind of out of our control. And so I bring all that up. That is just bizarre behavior from the Arkansas AD Hunter Yurachek, but it speaks to how weird it is. And I'll be honest, now that it is officially out that Eric Musselman is interviewing, I can't sit here and say the fan base wouldn't take him back. You guys can hop in the comments section and discuss amongst yourselves. It does feel just like a clean break is probably for the best, right? It's clear there's some sort of weird friction between the AD and the basketball office. I don't know what that is. I haven't been able to figure it out, but it is clear that there is some friction. It's clear that Eric Musselman, for whatever reason, has decided that he is looking for another head coaching opportunity. And USC does make sense. It's in the Big Ten. He's from the West Coast. I would think with Big Ten money, they're going to be able to pay him quite well. Not that Arkansas doesn't pay as well as anybody, okay? But they're going to be able to pay him well. He's going to probably get the NIL fund significantly improved. And my guess is that, listen, I think it has appeal to him being on the West Coast. So that's the latest. I think when you see interview, I don't think this is you or me going in for an interview. Let's use an Arkansas-themed concept, right? This isn't me going in for an interview to be a manager at Walmart. Walmart, of course, is an Arkansas iconic whatever. It's not, hey, let's just get to know each other and what's your resume and tell you my strengths and weaknesses. I think that was figured out last week. And this week right now, I think on Tuesday is really about kind of going through the process. And I do believe if Eric Musselman is offered that job, I do believe that he will accept. So we will see what happens. I would expect some clarification in the coming days. And with that said, give me half a second because I want to tweet something out. All right. So with that said, and the chat is humming, we appreciate your support. Drop your comments. I see the comments are bumping. We will maybe get to some of them either before or after the interview with Vinnie Bruno. So everybody stick around for that. But with that said, I do want to switch gears, and I do want to talk about what could potentially happen next at Arkansas. Because the one thing I'll say about Eric Musselman, I know it's not probably going to end well with Arkansas, but what cannot be denied is that this man has proven to the country that Arkansas is an elite job with elite resources, elite money, and an elite fan base. And if he does leave, I believe this job will be much, much more coveted than it was 5 years ago when he took over. So in terms of who's next, listen, I'll be honest. I've been working the phones, and this is going to sound crazy. I do believe the lead, it might not sound crazy to Arkansas fans, but I do believe the leader in the clubhouse right now, in my opinion, is probably Chris Beard. And it's going to sound crazy. Chris Beard just signed an extension at Ole Miss, okay? Well, what I have been told is that even though he signed that extension, there is nothing in the buyout that Arkansas boosters are not willing to pay. And I believe that if Eric Musselman leaves, I do believe that Chris Beard will be the favorite for that job. Now, some of you sit there and say, SEC to SEC, does that make sense? How does Chris Beard fit into all this? Remember, Chris Beard was at Little Rock many years ago. His first D1 head coaching job. He was at Texas Tech as an assistant coach. Then he bounced around, a couple JUCO jobs, whatever. I bring it up, goes to D2, Angelo State, and then after that, his first head coaching job in college hoops at the D1 level was Little Rock. goes there in 1 year, gets them to the NCAA tournament. From there, takes actually UNLV for a couple days. And then after that, takes Texas Tech, where he obviously really started to establish himself. So he has Arkansas ties. My understanding is he has still stayed in touch with a lot of the important power players in the Little Rock area. Obviously, people in Little Rock, Arkansas is the state school. There's no other Power 5 schools in the state of Arkansas. And everybody's kind of rowing in that Arkansas direction, that Razorbacks direction. And so in my opinion, if Eric Musselman leaves, Chris Beard will be the first guy. And I don't think just because he signed an extension that he's off the table at Ole Miss. You get past Chris Beard, that's where it gets interesting. The name that I have consistently heard, not only for this job, it is worth noting that on top of this job, the other name that I have heard is Jerome Tang. And why I say on top of this job, it's for a very simple reason, okay? It is because Jerome Tang has been linked to a couple jobs. I believe that he was pursuing Louisville. For whatever reason, Louisville didn't want him. They went with Pat Kelsey. I'm not totally sure why. But I believe if Chris Beard doesn't work out, or if the buyout's too much, or if he gets cold feet, I think Jerome Tang is the next call. Jerome Tang at Kansas State 2 seasons ago, went to the Elite Eight year 1 with Marquise Noel, Keontae Johnson. Remember, this year, yes, they missed the NCAA tournament, but his starting center, Naquan Tomlin, gets suspended to start the season and isn't allowed back on the team. And I was told that really created some friction in that Kansas State community because Naquan Tomlin was allowed to transfer and he was eligible right away at Memphis, okay? So I bring it up to say that it feels like to me there's a little bit of friction there. Also worth noting with Jerome Tang, lose your starting center, never get him back. Lose your 6-man Quez Glover, never get him back. So I think this is a guy that's looking at a second straight NCAA tournament if he has his full roster. And I think he likes what he sees at Arkansas, the NIL, the opportunities, 18,000 people in that arena for big games. And I do think Jerome Tang would be the next call. You know, Will Wade, I've heard mixed things about Will Wade. I have heard the Arkansas fan base. I don't know that they'd be as fired up about Will Wade as some others. Obviously, there's a lot of LSU history there with Will Wade. So I'd be curious if it isn't Beard, if it isn't Tang, do you go after Will Wade? I would take him. If you missed the interview we had Will Wade on right before the tournament, I think he's honest. I think he's transparent. Here's the other thing. He's young, 43, 42, with Power 5 experience, has proven he can win, and he's got a chip on his shoulder to prove everything wrong. So I would love to have Will Wade as my head coach if I was a Power Conference team, but I bring it up because I believe that as of right now, it's Chris Beard's job to lose if Eric Musselman leaves. And oh, by the way, if he doesn't, look for Jerome Tang, look for Will Wade. We'll have more on this. By the way, if you missed any of this, go back and you can rewind this, watch it. We'll also clip off the segment for everybody to check out maybe in the morning or so. But I'll tell you what, producer Matt, let's take a quick break. When we come back, what we're going to do, we're going to look at a very interesting narrative that emerged from the college hoops weekend as everything that everyone has ever told you about college basketball is being proven wrong. Torres was right as usual. And also kind of accidentally, inadvertently started a crap storm on social media today. Quick break, word from our partners. We'll be right back.
America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
Oh, had to step away for a second, but I am back. Good to be back. So let's switch gears. How'd you like that setup, by the way? Torres is sprinting back and forth. I had to do something technically to keep the computer running here. Want to switch gears. I do want to talk about a very interesting thing that came out of the weekend. So if you're listening to this pod, and we have, close to 2,000 people between YouTube and Twitter and all the different areas, listening to the show here on a Tuesday. You love college hoops, okay? But one thing that has become increasingly clear about college hoops. There is an audience who loves college hoops. Regular season, you follow the portal, you do this, you do that, whatever. And then there's a big portion of really the media that every March goes through the same cycle, and I frankly find it kind of exhausting, okay? And that cycle is this. They all tell you college basketball is dying. There's no stars. There's no storylines. All the legendary coaches retired. Nobody cares. Nobody watches college basketball. Now, it always bothers me for two reasons. One, if it's not your thing, just don't watch, okay? I don't go to hockey Twitter and start fights and say nobody watches the NHL, because there's a lot of people that watch the NHL and they like it. Is the NHL the NFL? No. Do the New York Islanders draw the same ratings as the New York Giants? No. But just because I don't like it doesn't mean I have to let the people that do like it know that it sucks, okay? But I bring it up because guess what? College hoops doesn't suck. And to take it a step further, let's go in a different direction. Basically, everything that everyone has told you is a dead lie. First of all, the same people that tell you that college basketball stinks, they get into the tournament every year, and then by the second weekend, they got Zach Edey takes and UConn takes and Duke takes and NC State takes, whatever. But at the same time, we've gotten two pieces of data that, in my opinion, pretty much indisputably prove that everything everyone tries to sell you about the death of college hoops is just dead ass wrong. Okay. So producer Matt, if you have the tweet, and I didn't prep you on this, so I apologize, of the TV ratings. So if you don't have it, it's okay. But on Tuesday morning, CBS put out a tweet, and the tweet said this: the Duke NC State game from Sunday afternoon was the most watched Elite Eight game since 2019. Remember, 2019, we had Zion Williamson playing the sport. I would argue maybe the most transcendent, interesting college basketball player maybe of this century, okay? Anthony Davis is up there. You know, there's a few others. But Zion was an entity unto himself, okay? And so I bring it up because Sunday was the most watched Elite Eight game since Zion in 2019. This on the heels of the fact that, keep in mind this as well. This was the most watched opening weekend of the NCAA tournament ever. So we have the most watched opening weekend. We had the most watched Elite Eight since 2019. And oh, by the way, did you see this as well? John Fanta tweeted out ticket price. And by the way, I know ticket prices because I'm a UConn guy and I got everybody hitting me up. Torres, can you get me tickets? Torres, who do you know? Blah, blah, blah. The cheapest ticket to get in, single ticket, for Saturday's Final Four games: Purdue, NC State, UConn, Alabama. I was going to say Duke, Alabama, and I was like, no, that doesn't sound right. UConn, Alabama, NC State, Purdue is $600. And so we have one of the highest ticket prices ever for a Saturday. We have the highest ratings across the board. When people try to tell you that college basketball is dying or it doesn't matter or this sport passed it or whatever, give them a little flick. I was going to say flick them off, but that sounds inappropriate. Give them a little flick. Tell them they don't know what they're talking about, okay? And the bottom line is this. Everyone will say, well, just because the tournament's good doesn't mean that people care about college basketball. Well, I fundamentally disagree. Because what everyone will say, well, March Madness ratings, first of all, according to Michael Mulvihill, who does all the rating stuff at ESPN or for Fox, he said this was both the most watched men's and women's regular seasons across the board in college basketball history. Okay, I don't know how you come up with those numbers. I don't know if it's total hours watched, per game average, whatever. But this is Fox PR. This has nothing to do with Torres. And by the way, that was across all networks, not just Fox, ESPN, ABC, whatever. So that's one. So two, people are watching. But what I truly believe ends up happening is people that just can't get into it. If you can't get into college hoops at this point, one, you're not like, if you say you don't care about the college hoops regular season, okay, first of all, numbers say people are actually watching it more. But two, this is the criticism. Well, the tournament's great. The postseason is great, but nobody cares in the regular season. Well, one, the analytics say that people do care in the regular season, but let's work under that narrative. My whole thing is, guess what? Every sport right now, except for the NFL and major college football, is a postseason sport. Baseball, I love going to the ballpark. I love having a beer. I love eating a hot dog. Nobody cares about regular season baseball night to night, or certainly not at the volume. I don't want to be critical of like other people, but at the volume of the NFL or major college football, people don't care about baseball. One, I don't criticize it, but two, it's a fact. Everyone tunes in for the playoffs. Same with the NBA. Don't even get me started on the NBA ratings, which are just tanking like you know what. So I don't care that everybody says that people aren't into it because the data doesn't prove it. But even if your argument is that the postseason is the only thing that matters, that's the only thing people tune in for, well, guess what? That's every sport. Golf. How many people are watching the Genesis Open or whatever? And if you do, good for you. Doesn't mean that it's a bad sport because most people only tune in for the Masters and the US Open and the British Open. Like, that's okay. Yet college basketball is the only one that gets criticized for it. By the way, I inadvertently started like a mini Twitter holy war on Tuesday afternoon, because in addition to tweeting out the ratings from the Elite Eight game, I also tweeted something that got a lot of people mad. I basically insinuated, I'll just read the tweet verbatim so there's no confusion, okay? So I put out the original tweet, most watched first weekend ever, most watched second weekend ever, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Then from there, I also tweeted this. Let me find it. Let's see. What did I say? I said also, and this is in reference to the women's tournament, okay? Because all I've heard from the mainstream media, and this is why I think I thrive, because I don't give you BS. I don't make stuff up to fit a narrative. I don't whatever. And what has been the narrative all March long? Well, Caitlin Clark is going to help propel the women's game past the men's game, okay? One, I love the women's game. I went to UConn. I grew up in Connecticut. I would actually argue, my guess is I've been to more women's basketball games than probably 90% of the people who have chimed in on this topic. But what can't be denied, everybody's trying to sell you that the women's game is about to surpass the men's game. There's no data to back it up, okay? Coming into the Monday Elite Eight game, LSU Iowa, the highest rated women's game ever was last year's final game championship, Caitlin Clark versus LSU. Did 9.9 million viewers. That's an incredible number. Incredible proof of incredible growth of the sport of women's basketball. At the same time, that number is 50% lower than Duke NC State Elite Eight, a game nobody watched. Then we got the numbers for LSU Iowa on Monday night. Incredible numbers, 12.9 million. Most watched women's basketball game ever, okay? And everyone said, oh, this is proof. A Duke NC State Elite Eight game did better than a rematch of the national championship game with arguably the most high-profile player ever. So even before that number came out, I put out a tweet, which I didn't think was that big of a deal. But I talked about first the men's rating, and then I said also an Elite Eight game between NC State and Duke with maybe one recognizable player, Kyle Filipowski, did a 50% bigger audience than the highest-rated women's game ever. I do love the growth of the women's game, but can we stop pretending it's anywhere as close to the men? Woo! Women's basketball Twitter did not like that tweet. Now, one, I will say, the Monday Iowa LSU game did a better rating, but I do still think it speaks to the fact that it isn't close to the men's game when a Duke NC State Elite Eight game featuring one player that anyone's ever heard of, Kyle Filipowski, is still beating a rematch of the national championship game with two of the most high-profile women in the history of women's college basketball, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. So it turned into this thing. Maurice Patton said, why poop on the women's game to build up the men's game? There's no pooping anywhere in the Aaron Torres pod universe, okay? Maybe off camera, whatever. That's another conversation for another day, okay? But at the same time, sharing facts and crushing narratives that aren't true isn't pooping on anything. As a matter of fact, the only pooping going on in the media is all those media people that pooped on men's college basketball to try to elevate women's college basketball and pretend that they were comparable. They're not. And the growth is great. By the way, you know how I know that most people have just tuned in for Caitlin Clark, which is great, by the way. How many people even knew who Paige Beckers was prior to like 2 days ago? Paige Beckers was National Player of the Year as a freshman. Yet all anybody cared. I'm not going to go on because this sounds like I'm diminishing the women's game. Love the women's game. Watched both games on Monday. We'll watch both Final Four games on Friday night. Really excited for the UConn-Iowa game. But this idea that the women's game is somehow surpassing the men's game, just a little ridiculous. All right, this is what I want to do. So what we're going to do is something a little bit different. So I have an interview coming up that I think everyone is really going to enjoy. My buddy Vinny Bruno works for a company called FastModel's Sports, okay? FastModel's Sports is essentially, I don't want to diminish what they do, but basically when your coach enters the portal, okay? When your coach enters the portal, I know what everybody thinks. You just pick up the phone, you call Jimmy from Kansas State, and you say, Jimmy, you want to come play for Old State U. Obviously, there is much more nuance. There is much more context behind it. And really, frankly, if I'm being perfectly honest, FastModel Sports is the app that really does a lot of it. So FastModel Sports is an app that almost every major college basketball program uses. I promise you, your favorite college basketball program uses it. And it's the coolest thing you'll ever hear. You can put in, hey, we're Arkansas and we're looking for players only from Arkansas. We're looking for players who are only 6'9" that shoot more than 40% from three. How do your players end up on your roster? By the way, there's a high school element to it as well. So Vinnie Bruno from FastModel Sports is set to join me. I'll come back on the back end, wrap the show, answer your questions, drop any questions that you have in the comments chat. I will get back to them to wrap the show. Here's my buddy, Vinnie Bruno from FastModel Sports. Via Zoom, it is that time of year. College hoops transfer portal is open. I don't care what team you follow. Your roster is about to get flipped here over the next couple weeks. And it's funny because I think most fans, they just think, hey, coach opens up a tab and they pick a player and they call them up. No. It's much more complicated than that. And there is a company that you probably don't know much about that you need to know more about that helps all your favorite coaches with this process over the next couple of weeks. It is called FastModel Sports. Joining me, longtime friend before, now media / college hoops guy, but the vice president of the company, again, FastModel Sports, Vinny Bruno. Vinny, what's up, man? How you doing?
Aaron, thanks for having me. Excited to join you today as the chaotic month of March goes on, and really excited to be here today and talk more with you.
Well, I'll give people a little bit of backstory. So Vinny, like me, is a Husky. I've known Vinny since, back in our younger days. I won't say too much about those days, but, you were in coaching, Vin, and about, probably 5-6 years ago, I had known you as you're in coaching, whatever. And really, we're at a Final Four and, I'm walking through a hotel lobby and, I basically, I'm just going to say it. You were like Nick Papagiorgio in Vegas Vacation. You had two coaches on your right, two coaches on your left. And I was like, where is he coaching? How did I miss all this? And I talked to you that night and you're working for FastModel. So for people who are not familiar, take us to like the origins of the company, and then I'll help, we'll explain how they're helping all your favorite coaches this time of year.
Yeah. So as Aaron mentioned, started my career in coaching in the Northeast, UConn, CW Post, St. John's, used the software FastModel as a coach. And what the software does is it's coaching tools. So play diagramming, scouting report solutions, analytics, and there's also a recruiting piece to it as well. So we really are a platform that services multi aspects of a coach's day-to-day, whether in season, preparing for upcoming opponents with scouting reports, and then really the lifeblood of any program is the players and the recruiting, and that's where our recruiting platform comes into play, which we'll talk more about here today.
Well, and so I even remember about 5-6 years ago when I saw you. So FastModel from the recruiting perspective, and again, we got a lot of fans listening, and I think Fans really do wonder, right? I think everybody just thinks, hey, you pull up this recruiting service or that recruiting service, and hey, this is the guy we go after. And obviously, I think everybody knows it's a little bit more complicated than that. But really, when I remember talking to you again 5, 6 years ago at the Final Four, essentially what your service was doing at the time was you were kind of the place where these thousands of AAU players that coaches are trying to learn about, this guy's from Virginia, that guy's from Maine, but he's playing prep school down in Houston, whatever. And you guys were really the ones that kind of basically streamlined and really correct me if I'm wrong. And if I am, I apologize, but go ahead, Vin. Yeah.
No. So with the company, right. The best way to interact with coaches was at recruiting events in the summer. And, we started out with the coaching tools, the scouting report, the play diagramming, and this idea about a recruiting app or recruiting platform was born in July summer weekend in Las Vegas when there was 8 tournaments running around. Coaches were going back and forth across Vegas to get to the next game. And we were sitting there and we were saying, man, we need an app for this. And Fast Recruit, as we call it today, was born in a hot gym in the middle of Las Vegas, July summer recruiting. And it's evolved to this 360-day a year product, right? Where it's not just the live periods, which is still a staple to our software, is the live period recruiting app, but also as the portal's now open, how recruiting has changed from live period to high school now to transfers, and our software continues to evolve as the recruiting for colleges evolve as well. So we are behind. We're an app that services coaches when they are in the gym, right, live period, but also in the office during their own season, right, getting ready for the portal to open. They're using our software, every day.
So let's stick with the high school stuff for a second, then we'll get to the portal. So take us to the Fast Recruit days. So basically I'm Tony Bennett or I'm Coach K or whatever, and I'm Coach K and I want to watch Jason Tatum. But if he's in Vegas, right? So one day he could be playing in this gym. The next day he could be playing across town. The next day he's scheduled to play here, but something happens. Like, take us through what coaches were having to deal with kind of before you guys kind of came about.
Yeah, so they were heavily reliant on their support staff, which they still are, but we give the tools for them to be more efficient. So before our app, they walked in with a binder or a sheet with a grid saying, Jason Tatum is playing at 8:00 at Bishop Gorman. If he wins, they move on. If they don't, they're out, right? So going from pool to bracket play was a big thing. They would wait for updates inside the gym, right? There's always a board with who won advances, right? And it's crazy to think that wasn't too long ago. We came in, we said, there's got to be a solution, right? Again, Jason Tatum wins 8:00. Now they advance. Now they play tomorrow at 6:00. Okay, I'm Tony Bennett or Coach K. I have to stay in Vegas to make sure I see his next game. So the app there was always a need for the technology to be implemented in this world. And we were there at the forefront. We helped them. We became the app in July. And I still hear some coaches say, oh, you guys have the app. And we really knew it was sticking when 2-3 years in, we would walk into gyms and there was Coach Bennett or somebody showing another coach, oh, you need the app. Here's the app. A centralized piece of technology, a tool to help them navigate, ability to take notes, to communicate with their staff, and again, really evaluate and just be organized in the chaotic months. Really was focused around July, but some weekends in April as well.
Here's a dumb question for you. How much time goes into data input on your guys' part?
Yeah, so we have a team. It's very important that the data is right.
Of course, yeah.
That's better or worse. Coaches have followed us. We, like the Bible, right? It was very, hey, what does the app say? When is the time right? So it was very, very important that the data is correct. And really our relationships with these tournament operators has been vital to make sure that the data is correct with the scores and the schedule and the updates. So there is a team behind, FastModel that makes sure the data is correct, because if I am in July recruiting for a major program, I'm getting on a plane or I'm staying put because of a game that I'm reading inside of my recruiting app, FastModel. So we want to make sure that it's correct. We always tell coaches to double, triple check with us. We have a data team. We also have a support team and a sales team to make sure we're communicating with them that they're making the right decision when traveling or planning to travel to another event. So there is a massive team behind us to make sure that the app is accurate and correct. And we kind of pride ourselves on that, supporting them, being that extra staff member to help them, navigate recruiting at the live periods.
No, and that's why I asked, because literally, everything you guys do is built on being the, the fallback of, when in doubt, go to the app. And it's like, that's a lot of pressure, 300 whatever staffs relying on you, and I don't know, but portal. So obviously, look, I think a lot of people love the high school stuff, but look, the portal, first of all, let me ask you this. When did you guys as a company start to see the impact that the portal was going to have on recruiting? Because I remember even 3-4 years ago saying that I was talking to staffs at the time as it became, one, a little bit more common to take transfers, but then two, you kind of felt the tension of the one-time transfer having to sit out. You knew that wasn't going to last forever. And I remember even 3-4 years ago talking to staffs like, there's going to be a point where there's certain coaches that only recruit out of the transfer portal, or very, very limited. And I think we're essentially there now. But when did you get a sense like, okay, the live period stuff is really important, but we need to be the portal place to go as well?
Yeah, it was really that time that you mentioned 3-4 years ago when the NCAA was changing the rules about sitting and playing and immediate transfers. And really talking with coaches and clients, when they were missing the April live periods because they were focused on the portal or even their own roster, right? That was like, oh man, recruiting has changed, right? Yes, we still had staffs going out for April, but more so it was like, we're staying back, or we having visits in April. It's like, we gotta make sure we're morphing and transforming when the calendar is changing. And really what the coaches need is another piece of our software to make sure they're monitoring the portal, right? It's, yes, we still are very heavy on the high school and the live period, but now we have the portal aspect as well. So it's really that time where the NCAA rules changed and the transfers immediately can play, and that's when coaches we saw started investing in the transfers more. And now it's become a huge part, as you know, of any college roster today.
So take me through. I get hired tomorrow as the new DePaul head coach. By the time I get in, a lot of my roster that I could have in theory inherited has already entered the portal. They're not waiting to see that Aaron Torres got hired. Now they should have, because I'm going to lead them to an NCAA tournament next year. But a lot of my guys are already in. I got to replace, the legendary story, Matt McMahon at LSU 2 years ago had to replace his entire roster. Now he ended up retaining some guys, but what do I do? How does Fast Recruit, Fast Model, like what am I doing to kind of use you guys to help me put together that roster? Because I said in that press conference, I'm like, we're going to the tournament in year one. I'm not afraid of Dan Hurley. I'm not afraid of anybody. What do I got to, how am I using your guys' software to put together this roster that I've promised everybody?
Absolutely. Well, first thing you look at is the portal, which kids are available. And what our software allows them to do is go in and manipulate filters. So if I know I want to recruit Chicago heavy, I'm going to look at anybody that's in the portal that has a hometown or home state of Illinois or a hometown of Chicago. That's a unique thing that we offer. That's obviously there's a ton of college players out there to be able to really narrow down and hometown. Also allow you to obviously manipulate their stats and other parameters like that. So a coach coming in will use our software to help narrow down a pool of potential transfers. We also allow them to obviously go out in the live period. They'll use our app as well. So they want to go out and recruit Chicago AU, etc. We carry all those events in April and July. So it's really, they're going to come in, they're going to evaluate the portal, and they're going to use our software to help them do that.
So I want to talk big picture about just where college hoops is going. You have information that even guys like myself in the media that pride myself on being informed can't get to. But real quick, I know there's a lot of like high school coaches, youth coaches listening, and my understanding is you guys do a lot of stuff kind of in that community as well.
Yeah, so we do service NBA, Division I. We also have a lot of international professional clubs. We have federations, but really we also service high school youth, club coaches with our coaching products, our play diagramming with animation, our scan report solutions, and anybody could visit our website, to go dive into that, but. Really, what we like to service every level of coach, and get them ready. Hey, maybe they're aspiring college coach or want to make it to the next level. This is a way to really organize your program and really treat it like a professional program and how they operate. So I encourage anybody listening to visit our website. We have really mature products that are you could use what the pros use, and it's great. So we offer those products, and like I said, they're always evolving. So I encourage everybody to visit the website.
Website's FastModel's Sports, by the way. Tell me a little bit the play diagramming. So what is that like? If I'm just go ahead and explain.
Yeah, sure. So our founder Ross, found a problem. Play diagram was done on napkins, pieces of paper, whiteboards, grease boards. So really using software to diagram plays, and they will animate. You can attach video to them. You can deliver them to your players. So if you're teaching your team a new playbook, out of bounds play, or just incoming and want to give them the whole playbook, you can draw it up, you can animate the stencils, and then you could attach video to them as well. You could send it right to their phone, their iPad. They can watch it on a computer as well. So the play diagramming has evolved tremendously, but it was really born out of the idea, hey, we don't need to circulate pieces of paper anymore. I don't think anybody's replacing a whiteboard in in game, but it's really an educational tool for players to learn a playbook or opponent plays, etc. So that's also offered at the club level.
Very interesting stuff. You said international. So is that like I own a team, or I'm a GM of a team in Italy, and I have, 2 roster spots for an American. These are the guys that are like, how does that work?
Yeah. So we offer the play diagramming and the coaching tools as well internationally. But as far as the recruiting or roster management, as we call it internationally, yes, they have spots. They want to see, again, players around the world, whether it's somebody from the G League or somebody that's going to graduate college that might not make it to the NBA. They have a pool of players that come in, and really it's Italy. We see a lot of adoption in Japan in the B League, and a lot of these international guys will come over to Summer League and watch the G League players. So a lot of people think, hey, G League players, they don't make a roster in the NBA or the G League. They go overseas. Well, that's how they go overseas. These clubs, these international clubs, are coming over here and watching them play in Summer League, which is a great event for any fan or club coach out there. I encourage attending Summer League in July. A lot of college coaches there as well. So it's a global sport, and I think our software does a great job of connecting coaches and players throughout the globe, throughout the world.
Yeah, no, it's as someone, I've been in Summer League many times. It's a great event for the basketball community. I encourage you to go, even if you're just a fan. I mean, you're going to bump into people in lobbies and hotels and all that stuff. Really quick, I'm just kind of curious from your perspective, like, There's a lot of talk right now about kind of the future of college athletics, and I'm not here to like, what does it mean for football and what does it mean for like, but we just kind of mentioned it a minute ago is like the sport, even, I mean, you were coaching, 7, 8 years ago. I don't know exactly, but like even from literally 5, 6 years ago to now, it's a completely different thing. By the way, let me ask you this. Obviously you guys aren't involved necessarily in the NIL space, but I mean, I feel like you either have an opinion on it or I don't know,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, just I'm just curious from your perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like everything else, it's a new rule that coaches are learning to engage, right? And I think we were talking earlier, Aaron. When I'm a new coach and I'm looking to be a head coach and I go visit a school, there's a punch list of things I'm looking for, right? A good fit, obviously the compensation. Then we look at the school, the community. One of the important things that keeps rising on that list is the NIL and the collective. And hey, can I take this job as a top assistant in the country and I want to be a head coach? Can I be successful as a head coach at this new school? And it's become the first or second question right after compensation is what's the NIL collective? And that's become a huge part of college basketball is the NIL. And the way you get players and transfers attracted to your school is the NIL. So it's become a big thing that a lot of coaches have on their mind, and they look directly to, like I said, when they do go for a new job or try to be a head coach, like, hey, what's the collective at? So it has definitely affected the college coaches. Obviously, it's a great thing for the players and the college students, but it's definitely a big factor that coaches are thinking about every day.
So where do you think college basketball is 3, 4 years from now? Because again, the sport has completely changed. It's about NIL, but even just the recruiting aspect of it. I mean, again, I remember, I tend, Vin, you're too important to be on social media all day, but I tend to put a lot of stuff out on social media that sounds crazy at the time and everybody makes fun of me. And then I end up being 100% right. And this was one of them, like 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like 6, it was probably about the 2018, 2019, like pre the rules change. I said, listen, give another 3, 4 years because, and it's for all the reasons that we now see is a 22-year-old can step on campus. They've lived away from home. They can deal with the physicality. They can deal with the coach yelling in their ear, whatever. But just in general, like, do you think do you think it continues this way? Do you think the mid majors essentially become a developmental situation for the high majors? Do you think that at some point we figure out a way, maybe with these post-COVID waivers, that high school becomes more important? I'm just curious from your perspective as somebody who's on the ground and seeing this stuff on a day in, day out basis.
Yeah, so obviously the conference realignment is a big factor, right? We're seeing what was the Power Five become the Power Four, and I'm a Big East guy, as you know, so I throw them in there as well. But the conference realignment has a really big factor on it, and we'll see how the NCAA keeps up with that. I do think, as far as like the college coach perspective, as I see it, yes, the transfer portal is extremely important. Yes, the NIL is extremely important. I do think high school recruiting and live period recruiting is still vitally important. And I'll tell you why. It's all about relationships. This business is a relationship business. As you know, I preach it. I wear it. I wear that badge on my shirt every day. It's all about relationships. So if I'm a college coach recruiting a high school kid, I don't get him. He goes somewhere else in 1, 2, 3 years when he does enter the portal. The players know they have a relationship with that coach, and you might get him in the portal, right? So I do think, as far as a day-to-day college coach, what they value is relationships, and if it's the portal, if I'm getting immediate, that older kid like you mentioned, great, but I'm still going to go to live period and foster relationships with the younger kids and really the coaches that are there as well. Those relationships are just as important. So Yeah, we will see. And to your point, on social, you were right 6, 7 years ago.
I usually am, but neither here nor there.
We'll see where it goes with the realignment. But I think as far as the day to day, how a college coach is handling it, they have to balance both. They have to balance the portal and still go and be present at those live period events for the high school kids.
Real quick, and we'll kind of get you out of here, but I think that's an important point. I remember about we could do the math, but when Auburn got Walker Kessler, who was a high school All-American, commits to North Carolina over Auburn, and after a year it doesn't work out. I remember talking to Bruce Pearl on this podcast, and Coach Pearl I've always been about relationships. I would never, be mad at a kid if he doesn't choose Auburn in the first place. And I don't want to speak for Coach Pearl in any way, but he basically said like it was that relationship that opened up the door a year later for us to be able to land Walker Kessler. So I don't think I think it's something that I think we probably underestimate is to just always be, and it's amazing because, and really quickly, like you can speak on this as well, is that I think, there's an old saying, like basically if a player has entered the portal, and that is when you're first learning about him or reaching out to him, you're probably a little bit too late. But like, I think, yeah, it's like, and you hate to say it like that, but it's the truth of in this business and in this world that we live in, you always have to be in that communication of, hey, we're not tampering, but we're just trying to get a feel for who's unhappy, who's not. And that's just kind of the way the world is. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And to your point, yes, the portal officially is open now, but, staffs are monitoring players, in the country, in their own conference. They look at hometown, as I mentioned. Somebody goes away to school, they get homesick, they want to come back. They look at minutes played, right? If I was a star in high school and AAU, and now my minutes drastically changed, they're gonna look at those kids, etc. So not tampering at all. It's just natural that they're monitoring kids and potential transfers and getting a head start. They're looking at video. They're giving their head coach video of this player. Does his style fit my program? Can he be an asset on our roster next year? So it's not all about, portal, let me open it up today. This stuff has been thought about months and months in advance. And, if you're not doing that, then like you said, you're way behind.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting too. Like this was the first time that I ever saw this past, this season, coaches talking about, hey, I'm having conversations with my players every day. Like I saw Dan Hurley, they were kind of asking him, hey, you have these 2 or 3 guys that are COVID seniors. Have you talked to them? He's like, I honestly haven't. The conversations have really been with the freshmen about staying the course, not, doing what's best for you, but also not listening to the wrong people, et cetera, et cetera. So, it's a new world, and you guys are at the forefront of it. So again, the website is Fast Model Sports. And I think what's cool from looking at from the outside is like, from my perspective as a college guy, I think it's so fascinating what you do in the high school recruiting space and the, the portal space, which is a beast unto itself. But then also, as you said, there's a lot of opportunity if you're a high school coach, if you're a young coach, if you're up and coming, all that stuff. So the website is Fast Model Sports, man. And I appreciate you making some time because I know it's a crazy. What kind of hours are you like? If you don't mind me asking, like,
yeah. This time March is the best month of the year. Always will be for me. Selection Sunday, we talked a lot about recruiting in the portal today, but Selection Sunday is like our Super Bowl for our software because you're getting that. You're playing against that 12 seed if you're a 5 seed, and you might not have known a lot about a Southland champion. This year you do because of the great story down there, but you might not know a lot about your opponent. You're using our software on Selection Sunday. You're pulling an all-nighter Sunday into Monday to get your team ready, using our software and preparing yourself. So days are long, nights are long, but it's all worth it. March is the best, and we're all busy here, but man, I appreciate you, and I appreciate what you do and having me on today.
Well, it's my pleasure. Again, Fast Model Sports Vice President, Vinnie Bruno. And again, when your team listen, I'm not rooting against anybody against the Southland champ, but when your team loses and then they got to replace their roster because the coach is mad, they're also going to you as well. So, man, I appreciate the time. I'll see you in a few weeks in Phoenix, but thank you, Vin. It was a pleasure. And as this thing continues to evolve, would love to have you on again in the future, because I know that as college hoops evolves, you guys are going to evolve with it. So thank you,
Absolutely.
man. Again, Fast Model Sports. And I think any coach listening probably knows the app, but again, fastmodelsports.com. Appreciate you, Vin.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. I'm back. Good to be back. Final segment of the show, but let's be honest, the show is essentially done. So good to be back. First of all, thank you again, Vinny Bruno from Fast Model Sports. Listen, Vinny's been a good friend of mine forever, but it has nothing to do with being a friend. His company, what he does, what he's about, how he helps college coaches, and how his company helps college coaches. He's got a great team with him. Don't want to undersell that. But Vinny was incredible. I appreciate everything that he did for me and sharing his, sharing details on everything that he does with you guys. Just absolutely incredible, really fun stuff. Listen, we still have, it's a Tuesday night. I know the McDonald's All-American game is going on, but we still got close to 2,000 people watching, whether it's via Twitter or YouTube. So, Producer Matt, do we have a couple questions to get to before we get out of here? I'll be quick. By the way, should mention really quick, and I'll get to the comment in a second, is if you want portal updates, we're basically doing them every day. We just did an update on Liam McNeely. He is the McDonald's All-American that seems he has an open recruitment right now. It seems as though it's coming down to very likely it's going to be either Kentucky, UConn, etc. So if you missed that clip, make sure to go back and listen. But make sure to listen. Also, make sure to subscribe, because we're going to be doing a lot of portal stuff. Kansas just got a big commitment. By the way, Jordan Pope from Oregon State just went in the portal. Really good player. All that. All right, Producer Matt, pop up those questions. I apologize. I asked for it, then I didn't ask for it, then I asked for it again. Okay. All right. Leslie says, Aaron, if you read this comment, would you please give me a comment on what you think about Shaka Smart maybe to Arkansas? Listen, I think sometimes in life you find the right spot. You find what's right for you. Everything isn't for everybody, okay? Dusty May, the head coach at Louisville, or the head coach at Michigan, he had a Louisville offer on the table. It has been reported. It has been documented. And I think he realized, I'm not a fishbowl coach. I don't want to be the center of attention 365 days a year. Counter that with when John Calipari took the Kentucky job. Now, Calipari obviously is struggling. In recent years, he's kind of pulled back his availability in the offseason and things like that. But I just bring it up because, listen, I don't think everything is for everybody. And I think when we're talking about Shaka Smart, I think what I see is a very talented coach who went to Texas, was at the highest of high majors. Texas has everything you want, but he was in that fishbowl. And I just don't think it was the right fit for him. A place where at Texas, you're expected to recruit 5 stars, expected to recruit McDonald's All-Americans, expected to win with those guys. And he was really good at VCU, and he could kind of recruit a different kind of player, a guy that's maybe a little bit more bought in, not quite as high profile. And he's thriving at Marquette. Obviously, a disappointing ending to the season. Sweet 16 loss to NC State. But I think it's a tough sell. Now, listen, you throw enough money at him, I think he's got to at least listen. I think he's in the right spot for him right now. Now, a year, 5 years, 10 years, I don't know. He's still young. He's in his early to mid 40s. Maybe not early, but probably his mid 40s at this point. Maybe something happens. Maybe Marquette's not the spot. The Big East, they fall behind in revenue. Maybe I don't think this offseason is when he's going to be seriously looking for big-time jobs. And remember, he had a big-time job, and he kind of passed up on it over the last couple years. What else we got, Producer Matt, before we get out of here? Andy Kennedy, former Ole Miss coach. Well, listen, Tripp asks Andy Kennedy to Arkansas if Muss is out the door. My only thing is this. Andy Kennedy was pretty good at Ole Miss as the head coach many years ago. If you can get the current head coach, why wouldn't you get him? Now, I think Andy Kennedy's another one. He was in the SEC. Now, admittedly, he was in maybe the worst job in the SEC, but he has gone to his alma mater, UAB. I think they've made 3 straight tournaments. If they haven't made 3 straight, they've made 2 out of 3. They lost to San Diego State this year, 2 years ago. They lost to Houston. I think he's in the right spot. I do get the sense that he is trying to find another opportunity in the high major level. I don't know that Arkansas is it. Listen, this is no knock on Andy Kennedy. I think Arkansas can do better. Chris Beard has proven he can win at Texas Tech, at Texas, at Little Rock, at Ole Miss, which was in the tournament picture until the very end. Will Wade, you can criticize for a lot of things. Will Wade has won at the SEC level. Jerome Tang has won at the Power Conference level. Andy Kennedy, I know it was Ole Miss. I know that's a tough place to win. And I know he made tournaments. Wouldn't be my first call, is basically the point that I'm trying to make. Muss is leaving our roster decimated, and all the good coaches have already been locked down, says the Boss Hog. I disagree. I disagree. I think what Muss has proven, and by the way, Arkansas got a commit the other day from Josh Cohen, who's a pretty good player. What I think Muss has proven at Arkansas is that is a great job. And I saw it with my own two eyes. I was fortunate enough to go to Fayetteville this year for the Duke game. Arkansas is an incredible campus. Beautiful campus, beautiful community. I had a blast while I was down there. But I think what Muss has also proven, if he is no longer the head coach, is the fact that you can win there, you can have success there, and you can win at the highest level there. Listen, I'm not trying to criticize anybody else, but Mike Anderson, we know how Mike Anderson ran things. It was kind of, hey, be thankful that I got to the NCAA tournament. Must prove, no. You can get to the tournament and win there. You can recruit McDonald's All-Americans at this school. You can recruit Anthony Black. You can recruit Nick Smith. The high school players are insane in that state. And so I think Muss has proven, criticize Muss for whatever, but he's proven you can win and win big in that program. They have everything you need, an incredible fan base, an incredible home court environment, incredible in-state recruiting, incredible NIL for the transfer portal. And if he does leave, I think Arkansas is going to be just fine. A couple more, we'll get out of here. Is Arkansas a better basketball school than Marquette? Dan from Queens. It's a great question. I think Arkansas is a better job because I do think in the NIL portal world, I don't think anyone is denying that Arkansas just has a really good NIL. But I also don't think every job is for everyone. It's funny, right? I was in the crosshairs all day today because I criticized the women's NCAA tournament. I don't think working at ESPN is for me, okay? If I'm going to sit here and say, listen, let's call a spade and let's have facts. The women's tournament is nowhere close to as popular as the men's tournament. I don't think ESPN wants to put me on First Take. I don't think they want to put me on whatever the other shows are, Around the Horn, where I'm just going to be honest all the time. And I think it's the same with Marquette, Shaka Smart, I think Arkansas is the better job. I think if both of them were open, I actually think, believe it or not, I think Arkansas would be the more coveted job. Doesn't mean that I think Shaka Smart is a better fit at Arkansas than he is at Marquette. I saw some other comments in this comment section about, a guy that has personality, a guy that has flair. I think there's absolutely something to that. Chris Beard isn't full of, piss and vinegar, but he does a lot of great stuff for social. He's full of piss and vinegar. He's not full of, personality off the court, but he does those fireside chats where he does a weekly kind of get together with fans and students. Jerome Tang is great. We've seen him. He says, don't rush the court. I'll come to you students, and he'll sit in the student section and party with the students after the games. So I think there are guys out there. I get why Shaka Smart, looking at the resume, Big East tournament, Big East regular season championship last year, Sweet 16 this year, top 10 all year. I don't think he's a great fit, but if you're asking me which job is better right now this second, I would probably say Arkansas. A couple more, we'll get out of here. We've been going long enough. As far as coaches goes, we heard that Tang is hard to get along with, and that's why he hasn't been elevated yet. A lot of the great ones are. I have not personally heard that. I'm not saying it's not true. That is from Slam Tana. I'm not saying it's not true. I have not personally heard that. I think a lot of the great ones are demanding, of high expectations. They have high expectations of the people around them, of assistant coaches, of their administrators. But I don't think that should refrain from hiring a guy if he's the right guy as the head coach. So we'll see what happens. I'm not even saying that he's the favorite. I'm just saying I don't think that should preclude him if he's tough to get along with. Chris Beard's tough to get along with. Bluntly, I'm sure Danny Hurley's tough to get along with. I'm sure John Calipari, John Calipari doesn't have much of a leg to stand on right now, but he's tough to get along with. The great ones are. You think Nick Saban was he? And by the way, I'm not comparing Jerome Tang to Nick Saban. I hope everybody understands that. But the bottom line is, I do think there is something to the fact that like the great ones are generally hard to get along with. Wouldn't be surprised. I have not personally heard that about Jerome Tang, but it ultimately wouldn't surprise me that much. Aaron Torres, any UConn transfer rumors from Jacob Petruzzi? It's funny. I just did a video on Liam McNeely, the 5-star McDonald's All-American. He said he's been hit up by UConn, Arkansas, Kentucky, or not Arkansas, UConn, Kentucky, Kansas, Michigan, Houston. Okay. He's from Houston, so that makes sense. Michigan, I don't think he would consider until he knows what the roster is. I think that's UConn's maybe number one priority. A couple local guys that are kind of in the portal. The Danny Wolf kid from Yale. I cannot confirm that UConn is interested in him, but a lot of UConn fans have made that assumption. He played at Yale, 7'1" center, can kind of stretch the floor. I'll say this about UConn. I think at the center position, I do get the sense that it's going to be Samson Johnson's job to lose. He's the 7th man this year, first big off the bench. I think he's been, a good soldier. He got hurt last year, came back, didn't complain. This year, he's the first big guy off the bench. I think he is going to be the starting center next year, so I don't really see that one. I've seen some Gavin Griffiths buzz. He's from West Hartford. Well, he played high school ball at West Hartford, Connecticut. Shout out West Hartford, Kingswood, Oxford. I'm from West Hartford, by the way. But he'd be a nice role player, 6th, 7th man. UConn's got one of the more intriguing off seasons because they're going to lose at minimum 4 starters. Donovan Clingan, Steph Castle will declare, and Cam Spencer and Tristan Newton are out of eligibility. I think Caravan may at least consider going pro. So UConn's got a lot ahead of them. I don't know that there's anybody right now that I feel great about. By the way, I saw Brandon Huntley Hatfield from Louisville has UConn in the Final Four. I don't know. He doesn't really fit with who they are and what they do. He's actually kind of a lot like Samson Johnson, athletic, rim protector, rebounder guy. That I don't know. That's really what UConn wants from the 5. So I'll just sit this one out and say, as of right now, I have not heard anything definitive on UConn. Nothing can stop the Big Pig invasion, says Steam Donkey 56. Listen, that's a fact. Okay. Can anything stop the Big Pig invasion? No. The answer is actually no. And again, we're going to discuss this if Eric Musselman takes the Arkansas or takes the USC job. I truly believe in my heart of hearts, I'm not saying this, whatever. In my heart of hearts, I believe he is leaving that program, if he takes that job, in a better place than he found it. And I think they're going to get a better candidate than they would have if he hadn't been the head coach over the last couple of years. And so to answer the question, no, the Big Pig invasion can't be stopped because that is a school that loves basketball and is going to put everything behind basketball. And I can tell you, I know for a fact. Now, I can't definitively tell you who's going to be the next head coach, but I know for a fact people have seen what Eric Musselman has done there, what the crowd storming the court. I was at one of those games when the crowd stormed the court. The in-state recruiting, Nick Smith, Devo Davis. I know it didn't end well, but Jalen Williams, Moses Moody. And they're saying if Musk can do that, maybe I can do that too. And so, no, nothing can stop the Big Pig invasion. And we're going to sell a lot of those shirts next year. Tough year for Big Pig invasion t-shirt sales this year. Wait till 2024, 2025. Wait till baseball season, baby. Anything else before we get out of here? All right, I'll tell you what. I think that's good. That's going to be it for tonight. I think I will go ahead and get out of here. If you're not subscribed to the show, please make sure to do so. Apple. By the way, if you're not subscribed on YouTube, go ahead and make sure to click that subscribe button on YouTube. Click the notifications so you know when we go live, because we're going to be going live a lot over these next couple days. I will be at the Final Four, but I promise you if something breaks in the middle of the day, I'm going to tell Dan Hurley, hey, Coach Hurley, you got to wait to do your press conference because Torres got to go live on something. So if you're not subscribed, please make sure to do so. Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Music, wherever you listen to podcasts, make sure that you're subscribed. Also, make sure to rate and review the show. Go ahead, give us a quick 5 stars. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, all that good stuff. If you're following on social media, I just gave you all the social media handles. Make sure to do that. I still have people mad at me because I won't say that the women's game is going to surpass the men's game, but that's neither here nor there. Also, college basketball transfer season is here. CBB transfers on Twitter, CBB transfers on Instagram. You want to be following that account. Late breaking news, all that good stuff. Time for me to go. I will be back probably for a full show Thursday night, maybe Wednesday, depending on what happens. Time for me to get out of here, though. Shout out to Torn Craig. Shout out to Rachel, who hates my voice. Shout out to JJ Redick, you F-head. Unblock me, bruh. By the way, Spencer Hawes, former NBA player, also came after me this weekend. Wild times on these Twitter streets, man. I got Purdue fans mad at me. I got women's basketball fans mad at me. I got Spencer Hawes mad at me. But you know what? Torres just keeps ticking. Be back soon.